Hey dudes, Hardcore Kid here. Hardcore enough to review kid stuff. Now, some of you were wondering, how's your sabbatical going, kid? I don't really consider it as much as a sabbatical, as much of just not making that many reviews anymore. After the fall of Blip in 2014, I kinda took a break from Hardcore Kid reviews to focus on other things. But fear not, my friends, I'm still making the occasional review here and there. In fact, I have a new Hardcore Kid episode in the works right now. It's still in the writing phase, but hopefully I should have it released by next month. Until then, let's recap some movies that I covered since Blimp went under. I only did about 5 or 6 reviews this time, so there isn't really a whole lot to choose from. But let's check them out anyway. This is the top 5, worst post-Blip under... fuck it. Top 5 even worse movies I reviewed. Number 5. Alpha and Omega. First off, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Bob Show for giving me the chance to take part in the whole reviewer collaboration on his channel. It was a blast, dude. Now, as far as this movie goes, honestly, when you compare it to its everlasting run of sequels, it's pretty mediocre. The CGI is bland, the voice actors don't really sound all that into it, and overall, it's just a run-of-the-mill road trip story with 2 wolves, lots of sledding on logs, anal abuse, and a Romeo and Juliet gimmick surrounding it. I've said many times before, one of the major factors to any form of media is to have likable characters. Unfortunately, Humphrey and Kate are so bland that I can't even find much reason to like them. And I know many of you Wolfabob fans told me, well, what about Garth and Lily? They're way more interesting. I guess. Hey, I'm all for supporting your favorite characters, but personally, I didn't really think much about them either. That's probably why I skipped over most of their scenes while I was doing the review. They just seemed there. As for the action scenes, if you're a big fan of sledding on logs and running away from caribou, well, you're better off watching the X Games. Now, I'm only judging this as a solo movie. If I were to judge Alpha and Omega based around the entire movie series, I'd give it a rating of Wolfa bullshit. People love to make fun of the Land Before Time movies for being cheap and overabundant, but I am a fair man, and I can say that some of the sequels, at least the first 5, were watchable. Alpha and Omega has had 7 sequels, and they all suck. For starters, they're all 45 minutes long. Those aren't movies. They may as well be extended episodes. Secondly, rather than focus more on Humphrey and Kate or Garth and Lily, they focus on their kids, who, Mother of God, are some of the ugliest, most annoying runts ever put to film. What's that? Not shitty enough for you? Then how about movies that focus on ghosts, dinosaurs, and wolves going on vacation?
I don't like where this is going.
I've seen all of Bob Show's reviews of these things, and I can't do them justice. They are horrible. And sadly, the next movie on this list is from a series that, for the most part, I really enjoyed. Before it got devoured by computer-generated insanity. Number 4. Jungle Direct's Hugo III. This was the first movie I reviewed after being resurrected by the Media Hunter. The first 2 Jungle Direct Hugo movies I really enjoyed, but this third one is by far the weakest in the entire series. The blocky CGI really dips the quality down from the smoothness of the Western-style animation. At times the characters look kind of weird, and sometimes horrifying. But on top of that, after 2 movies and a television series, I guess the creators ran out of ideas for what they wanted to do with these characters. So their best bet was to throw Hugo and Rita back into the jungle and have every single solitary villain from this series go after them. Yes, while Alpha and Omega had no villain, this movie has too many villains. The result is a giant clusterfuck with Hugo and Rita trying to outrun everything, from a mad scientist to dogs to some perfume model. Hell, one of the villains just straight up disappears and is never seen again. And just when you think the movie is approaching a climax, we get one of the worst villain songs I've ever heard before the movie just gives up and ends. It's less of a climax and more of a premature ejaculation. But there is one positive that holds it together, and it's that Hugo and Rita are at least the same two likable characters that we know from the first film. It's the one positive that this movie has over Alpha and Omega. But alas, it is not enough to save this endangered species from extinction. Still, it's better than Foxic vs. Mr. Speed Squared. Number 3. Home Alone 4. Earlier this year, we sadly lost one of the best movie dads of all time, John Hurd. How much you want to bet when he was approached for this role, and then when he read the script he screamed, "What?" and then ran off to the set of Sharknado as fast as he could. Yeah, I know Sharknado came out 11 years later. Don't kill the joke. This sequel, which looks to have had a budget of $967, is meant to be a continuation of the first two movies. Of course, given this movie came out a decade later, they couldn't have any of the actors return. So instead, we got a bunch of Z-grade actors doing absolute shit impressions of these characters. You have this subplot where Peter and Kate want to get a divorce for no good reason. You have two goons trying to kidnap a kid who doesn't even show up until the end. And the traps? Well, the best trap is the waterfall scene, and that was only in the second act. The rest of the traps are just vanilla gimmicks with remote-controlled doors and frying pans. And that's the key word for this movie. Vanilla. It's just so plain and so boring and so hallmarky. Home Alone at least has charm, it has substance, and it has good morals. And Macaulay Culkin, as devious as his character was, he was quite likable. What the hell is this kid? The original Home Alone, and regardless of what you think about Lost in New York, they're both classic Christmas films. This has French Stewart trying to do a Marv impression. This movie is bushwhack. But I'm going to stop talking about Home Alone 4 before Fox Studios gets pissy and flags the video. Again. Now, number 2 on this list may come off as a bit of a shock to you guys, but I'm going to explain why I put it here. Number 2. When Blackbirds Fly. Oh yes, from the studio that gave us Where the Dead Go to Die comes Jimmy Screamer Claus's latest masterpiece. And believe it or not, this is actually better than his previous installment. Granted, it's still a piece of shit, but at least this time, Jimmy was kind of able to grasp the concept of story. And for the first 30 minutes or so, I was kind of invested. You have this world of black and white, also called heaven, that is being protected by a world of bizarre colors, shapes, monsters, and a mysterious woman that's the source of all evil. And when two kids accidentally release the evil, it begins to run rampant on the world of black and white. That's actually a cool concept. Unfortunately, once Jimmy starts getting his shit in, the movie completely falls apart. You see, the world is being run by some guy named Cain who considers himself the next coming of God. And as it later turns out, he's a total prick whose laws are complete bullshit. And that leads to complete and total stupidity. When his wife is being tortured, Daryl refuses to do anything because she's naked and sex and nudity are outlawed because who wants some ice cream? But the funniest scene is when the citizens of heaven decide to stop worshipping Cain, and so they all get executed on sight for being atheist. I mean, my God, I have friends who are atheists. If they watch this scene, they'd either be outraged or be laughing their asses off with me. It's just so stupid. But when it's all said and done, this movie is still a giant piece of shit. The animation is so bad that you'd think the video is buffering. The audio is so atrocious, I had to crank the volume all the way down to nearly mute. And also, this movie is long. 2 hours. And much of it is just padded with flashback scenes of Cain and Cortana giving their backstories. And then the ending is just one big middle finger for all the people who watched it. So why am I putting it at number 2? Well, for once Jimmy kinda tried. And also, I have heard him on my friend Mike's podcast, and he actually sounds like a genuinely nice guy. Which leads us to number 1 on this list. Can you guess what it is yet? Yeah. It's that movie. Number 1, Cool Cat Saves the Kids. When Jimmy was making Blackbirds, you knew right off the bat it was meant to be a dumb horror flick you weren't supposed to take seriously. This godforsaken piece of crap is meant to be a PSA to teach kids how to deal with bullies. And it fails. It fails in every conceivable way. You have this giant cat that looks like it was stolen out of a high school locker room that gets bullied, manipulated, even trolled. So how does he save the kids? The answer is he doesn't. His dad, creator Derek Savage, is the one who has to help him out. And when he isn't, the bullies, or dare I say bully, gets himself in trouble with the law. When the movie isn't trying to teach you bullshit, it pads itself out with subplots involving Cool Cat in a parade or trying to write a song. And overlooking this train wreck is the biggest bully of all, Derek Savage, who tried to silence all the critics by filing false copyright claims on videos and reviews, which would eventually lead to the WTFU campaign with mixed results. And you know what the best thing is? Even after all this drama, Derek Savage is still making these god-awful PSA movies. Probably his most notable one is his gun self-defense for women film, which consists of him trying to teach these overly voluptuous women to carry guns with them, to protect them from muggers. The trailer for this is online, and it's amazing. Highlights include Savage firing a gun directly at his expensive video camera, teaching a woman how to shoot a giant fuck-off shotgun, and unleashing hell on what looks like a picture of I Hate Everything. I'm sorry, but if I want to watch videos of some dude shooting shit up, I'll gladly watch FPS Russia, thank you very much.
This time we're going to use a pistol.
Hey, what?
Oh my god! No! Back off or I'll shoot!
Another reason why nobody likes Chris Christie. Now you may be wondering, why don't I review this movie in whole? Because if you order it off his website, it comes with mace and a taser, and those are illegal in New Jersey, so I wouldn't be able to get... Oh hell, it's because I don't want to review that piece of shit. It's probably just as bad as Cool Cat anyway. So yeah, that's my top 5 post-blip, even worser movies I reviewed. Now, you may be wondering, what am I going to be reviewing next? Well, let's just say you should be prepared to enter a world of pure imagination and come out covered in cat hair. Peace out.